This is the Into the Paddock podcast.
Really good race because of these tyre compound changes, and we were looking like we were heading toward a really like an upset. You know, Austin Dillon out of nowhere had run down Joey Logano, had run down Denny Hamlin, had driven past the pair of them quite perfectly, really. You know, his car wasn't perfect, but he managed to get by them and was cruising really to a victory, which would have come out of nowhere considering he hasn't even led a lap this season and is currently 32nd in points prior to this race weekend. Then the inevitable comes out. And by that, I mean the caution. Ricky Stenhouse decided to plow through Ryan Preece, I believe it was, with 2 laps to go.
Why?
Because it's Ricky Stenhouse. On the restart, Joey Logano manages to get by Austin Dillon around the outside on the penultimate lap. And then we come to the final lap, and the inevitable happens. Austin Dillon, running second, flies into turn 3 with no intention of making the corner, clips the right rear of Joey Logano, spinning him around and into the wall. That slows up Austin Dillon. Denny Hamlin, who's running behind, goes low to try and pass the pair of them. He's now got the momentum because everyone else has gone up high after the contact. Dillon drives down the racetrack, hooks Denny Hamlin into the wall, and goes on to win the race. I mean, it's disappointing but not surprising, I think is the way I want to go for. You know, we know that NASCAR has always been rubbing is racing. You know, you got to do what you got to do to win, you know. I feel like this is perhaps, and JD, you've been watching NASCAR for a lot longer than I have, so you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong. This is perhaps the most egregious act of rubbing is racing that there has ever been in series history.
So because of what you just said, because JD's been watching a lot longer than we have, I just want to state that I am currently of the belief I've stayed off Twitter because I didn't get to watch the race Sunday. I had to wait till Monday to watch, right? So I'm surprised everybody hates this. Right? Like I thought this is what NASCAR would want. You know, of course there are going to be people who are fans of the drivers who got dumped that are going to be really pissed off. And, you know, everybody likes the number 3 because of Dale Earnhardt's history. And like, I mean, I guess not everybody, apparently. So, yeah, I thought this is, of course, there's going to be a lot of people angry, but I didn't think that would be like the general consensus. I thought there would be like, oh, hell yeah, this was a fun finish. This is exactly what the sport wants.
So I'm glad you said that, Greg. Because people of a certain age who've been watching NASCAR for a while have kind of been seeing this coming. You're absolutely spot on. NASCAR wants to have this kind of absolute chaos going on for their races to pop off on Twitter, whether it be good or bad, and to make highlight reels like, oh, wow, look how wild and crazy this finish was. Herder, look, watch us crash these $250,000 cars. You know, that's the whole reason they invented the chase and then playoff formats, was to just falsely generate these high tension moments. And, you know, fans think that racing is, oh, look at these guys turning this into a demolition derby, and they get paid millions of dollars to do demo derby, crash their cars and hurt each other. But that's not what the sport is. That's not what racing is. This was not racing.
Right.
You heard a lot of drivers, you know, past drivers, former drivers come out and say it takes zero talent to go ahead and dump somebody. It takes an immense amount of talent to do a proper bump and run, move a guy out of a groove, or to pass them cleanly. What Austin Dillon did undercut what was probably the best drive he's ever had in his entire Cup career. This wasn't a super speedway. This wasn't a fuel mileage strategy. His car and his driving were just fast. And at the end of the race, that final restart, he just got outdriven by Joey Logano. Happens to literally everyone else in the field. Joey Logano is just really good when it comes to the end of the races. So then he just said yeet into turn 3 and took him out. The bigger problem is that he came down and right hooked Denny Hamlin. Now, if he did not do it to those 2 drivers who are the 2 current most winningest and hated drivers in the field. You take out their names and just show people what Austin Dillon did, people would be up in arms as they should be. Like, but NASCAR, we're recording this before NASCAR has said anything about penalties or whatnot, but they've set a precedent over the past 18 months. You right hook somebody, you get penalized, you get suspended, and you get parked, and you get penalized severely. I don't. But NASCAR, they put themselves in this box way back
Yeah.
2015. The boys have at it. Oh, we'll just let the drivers take care of it on the track. They have respect for each other. No, drivers have no respect. You put them in these pressure situations and you don't enforce driving standards, you get this kind of demo derby bull crap. This is not legitimate motor racing. There's no rules. It's just, I could go out there and I could dump half the field and get a top 5 or a win. It takes zero skill. These are supposed to be the best drivers in the world that all the broadcasters and pundits keep saying. What we saw there was not a display of excellent driver talent. This was bull crap. And it's a disgrace to motor racing. It's a disgrace to NASCAR and all the teams, drivers, and fans who invest their heart and soul into this. This is a slap in the face. If I'm NASCAR, I don't care that it's trending on Twitter. I'm ashamed that this has happened.
Well, it's gonna put them in a compromised situation, right? Because they're gonna have to penalize the guy, right? Even though NASCAR has always had this reputation of like, if you dump somebody on the track, just expect it from them next week, right? Next Sunday when you're there, they're gonna do the same thing to you. Lap 1, we're gonna have a couple cautions in the beginning while people get some retribution, right? And then that'll be the end of it. But now they've set the precedent, like you said, they're gonna have to park the guy, they're gonna have to fine him. But this is the perfect social media moment for NASCAR. The only thing there's Ash Vandalay has a really great video on like why racing is really hard to make highlight videos go viral, because it requires a lot of like knowledge and context of the situation in order for like a pass to make sense or whatever. Every piece of context that you need to know what's going on happens in a clippable, like viral moment on track. The only thing that they need to state is in the caption at the bottom saying that he started 32nd, or not started, but he was 32nd in the championship, and now he's locked into the playoffs, right? And they're going to capitalize on this, but they're also going to have to fine and park him. They're going to double capitalize on it. But we've seen it happen in the past. That's exactly how they're going to play it, I think.
I don't think they're going to penalize him.
They don't like taking wins from people, and the people that they penalized before for doing exactly the same thing, Chase Elliott and Bubba Wallace, when they wrecked people, it was not for the victory. They didn't go on to win the race. NASCAR don't like taking wins from people. I think the only time in NASCAR's history they've ever taken a win away from someone due to their conduct was Ricky Rudd. I think, like way back when, way before I started watching it. They don't like doing it. It's and it goes against their whole thing of what they're trying to make. As you said, the whole playoff format, the whole winning you're in, it's all incentivized for the drivers to do whatever it takes to win, and that's NASCAR's goal. So for them to encourage the drivers to do stuff like this, and then to turn around and punish them when they do it, it's hypocritical. You put them in that position, now they're doing it, and now you don't like it. What do you want from this situation? So I don't think that's why I don't think they're necessarily gonna. I think they will fine him. I think that's the least they will do. They will probably suspend his spotter, because, like it or not, Richard Childress, the spotter did tell him to wreck them. I know that Richard Childress said in the post-race press conference that, no one ever told him to wreck him. And then when they showed him the audio, he was like, oh no, he didn't say that. They put that audio in there. What are you saying?
That's AI.
So,
they used AI to recreate his voice and make him say that.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, I know straight up facts is something that kind of demographic tends to ignore anyway. So,
Jesus Christ.
But that's why they're not going to. They're going to paint. They could get rid of the spotter for kind of encouraging him to do it. They'll use him as the scapegoat. They'll fine him, sure. But as you said earlier, JD, the precedent from right hooking people is to suspend them. It shouldn't matter which drivers are involved, which lap it's on, which track it's on, and whether it's for the win or for 30 seconds. If you right hook someone into the wall intentionally, it's clear what Dillon was doing there. He's even said after the race that's why he did it. You know, that should be straight up suspension. And whether that affects his, because you go back to Elliott and him being suspended for that race for destroying Hamlin. It's always Hamlin in these situations. They didn't remove his playoff eligibility for that. So chances are, even if they did suspend Dillon for next week, they probably wouldn't remove his playoff eligibility for it. So, in this era where you don't need to make every race, what's the point of suspending people anyway? And that's the thing with NASCAR, is that this was the most egregious example of NASCAR's entertainment over sporting integrity. Many people have said it's the WWE of motorsport, and I completely agree with them. I wouldn't even call it a motorsport. It's a motor show at this point. There's no sporting integrity in it.
Oh, come on.
No, there isn't. There isn't. The entire format is designed to just generate bullshit entertainment shit. It's there's no actual racing there. The whole playoff format, you win and you're in. You can win 2 races at the beginning of the season. You can win 1 race at the beginning of the season, and then you can just dilly-dally around in 32nd place until the playoffs start, and then care for 1 of 3 races and then move on. It's just, you can go into corners, you can wreck people deliberately, you can go fight in the infield if you don't like it. There's no sporting integrity there. Yes, the effort the crews make behind the scenes to put the cars out on the racetrack and the driving talent is there, but it's completely overshadowed by this pantomime that surrounds it. And I've said in the past, I don't hate that. It's the way I view NASCAR, and I've said this before on the show, is that at the end of a day of really good racing, it's the palate cleanser at the end. It's the horrible drink you have at the end of a good night out that just destroys you for the rest of the evening. It's good for what it's good at. But NASCAR, for a long time, I think has embraced the fact that it isn't serious. And I think everyone just needs, events like Sunday just emphasizes that to everybody who wasn't certain already. It's a motor show.
This is the Into the Paddock podcast.